Welcome. This is a great, fantastic turnout. We're all so proud of you guys for coming out on a cold night like this. Not that it's that cold just yet. But my name's Wayne. I'm just going to MC this thing, get it underway so that Matt can spend more time than me and share his vision with us. Just a couple of housekeeping points.
Seats up the front.
Yep, there's a couple of seats here. Leave one for me.
Shy boys at the back. Come on.
You in the middle.
Pretty women
Coming
at the
up.
front.
We won't pick on you too much. First thing is toilets over this side. Men and women's just here. And there's fire exits around if anything should burst into flames or anything should happen. Guns pop off too majorly. Just get my notes out. So the fire exits, obviously the back, one there, should anything help, make sure you help anybody that needs help. Just show you that we're a good loving community. You can all hear me at the back, alright? Awesome, thank you. This meeting has been requested by the community, by certain members, and a lot of the community have helped put this together, bring chairs and providing yummy supper for us a bit later, so don't rush off. There's a cuppa and a feed, and we get to talk to one another and just share the love a little bit more. The last couple of years have been quite tough for us all, and I'm sure you could agree with that. It's been very hard, small businesses, individuals, trying to make their stand and really getting not listened to. So we've got a man here who's wanting to listen to us all, and we'll give him that space tonight. At the conclusion of this event that's been started by the Never Give Up group, like I said, there's a supper and a chance to ask questions and what have you. We'll have a mic as we can have a few little questions a bit later on. But before I introduce Mike to us, I'd just like to, Matt, Mike. At least you know your name.
Mike's the comedian.
Yeah.
He's been a comedian.
I wasn't thinking of him. But I'd just like to welcome one of our own councillors here in the Kaipara, Victoria Delavoros-Woodcock. She's going to just share who she is, a little bit about herself.
So I am the starting act. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Good evening, everybody. My name is Victoria Julieta Vera Varis-Woodcock. It's a very long name and it's quite hard to live with sometimes. So I'm going to begin my talk with a quote. Can you hear me down the back? Yes. The best of governments is that which teaches us to govern ourselves. That was written by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, who was born in 1772 or something, but he died in 1842. He was a statesman and a poet. I am here as Victoria. My role and my job is as a councillor, as Wayne introduced me, for the Kaipara District Council. I am the West Coast Central Councillor, and this is my second term. And in October the 8th, we have local government elections. So you will all get a chance to vote, which is part of democracy at a local level. I believe that our democracy that we have in New Zealand, that we do have in New Zealand, is as important and as fundamental to each and every one of us as the air that we breathe, as the water that we drink, and as the kai that we eat. So Wayne, when he made his introduction, said that we are all unified by surviving the challenges that have been pushed on us, that we have been beset by. And I'm very, very excited and very proud that we have a man that has stood up and that has taken the initiative. I was going to say something like that has got the balls, but that's a bit sexist. But anyway.
You've said it.
Okay. And he started a party that says Democracy New Zealand. I think that's just a great start. So can I have a round of applause? Okay. Well,
Okay,
That's so cute as well.
is it fireworks? Okay. Well, anyway, I'm not going to drag it on too long. I am capable of speaking a lot. Some people say too much. Oh, they're shooting! Oh my God! Come on! How the hell am I going to talk after that? Okay. Alec Melville.
No, that's it.
Okay. All right. So guess what? I was in Wellington and I gave Matt a hug there. Yeah. And the mayor growled at me and he told the newspaper that being a councillor is a 24/7 job and what is she doing down there? And, you know, she's going to come back and make us all sick. Well, that never happened. Never. So that was quite mean. And I have to tell you that I did do my job down there very well, thank you. I answered all my emails. And I met with my constituents and I got to talk to a whole range of people. I talked to fire service people who'd been put out of a good job, $1,600 a week, income lost from two earners, a firewoman and a fireman. I talked to nurses, teachers, house painters, carpenters. There were wealthy people with their big flash trailer homes drinking champagne and stuff. And there were poor people, homeless people without shoes and with really bad teeth. And I got to see the whole of New Zealand. And that was just the most important part and most incredible experience of my life. And so now I'm one of these really, really, really happy people that realizes I have a purpose. And in my work and with my community, my tribe, my kaipara, well, we are New Zealand. I have realized my purpose is to teach others how to re-engage in democracy, how to believe in our potential as the many to choose our leaders. And why do we need good leaders? Because we need leaders who will stand up for what is right. And for the instruments, the democratic and statutory and legislative, these are all big words, the laws that have been developed over time, because democracy is 3,000 years old. The laws that we have should never have been trampled on. We should never ever have had to lose faith in our public institutions. And so I finished my introduction to Matt. You're here to hear him with a last quote. It's also a German motto. Lose money, lose nothing. Lose health, lose something. Lose character, lose everything. Kia ora.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much. Just thought that since she's going for the mayoral job, I'd give her a few minutes to... That's what I forgot to tell you, didn't she? Hey, look, it's lovely to be here. I just thought I'd open with... I always open with health and safety. I know that the man covered it, but one of the things, if there's a disaster like another Labour government, or an earthquake or a fire, get the hell out of my way so I get out of here safely. It's lovely to be here. It's lovely to be here in such critical thinking, beautiful people. I just went down to South Island, and I was blown away by the feedback and the people down there and the depth of feeling and the passion. It was really incredible. So what I thought I'd do is I won't assume that you know who I am, so I'll just have give you a little brief outline of who I am, and then I'll give you my perception of democracy and my experience in Parliament, and then I'll talk about Democracy NZ, and then I'll finish with question and answer, and that's always the best part of it. So I live in Okaiau. I bought my family farm. I live on just under 700 acres. I live off the grid on a house that my wife and I built last year. Life's pretty good. I've got grown-up kids. One's at home. He's a cop. I've got a pilot son, and I've got a daughter at university. So we're nearly empty nesters, and life's pretty damn good. So I can afford to eat Eiffel at steak every night, drink wine with my wife, sit on my deck and look at my beautiful farm. I don't need this, but I'm here because, like you, I really, really care about our country, and I'm really worried about the direction it's going in. So I was an MP for one term in Northland. It was one of my life's greatest achievements. I mean, getting married and having kids is right up there, and then under there, just in case my wife was watching, under there was being an MP. I really loved my job. I worked really hard at it. I like to think I did a reasonable job. Thank you, and I paid her to say that. And then I missed out by the smallest margin last election in the red wave. I missed out by, but I believe things were meant to be. They were really meant to be because I got time with my wife. Because I'd spent 3 or 4 years in Parliament, and 3 years in Parliament, and a year or two getting in there, and I was around the country a lot, and I never, my wife and I, we've been together 32 years, and she's my rock. She's solid. She's the reason I'm successful, and I think things were meant to be because I missed out. I spent a year, I built a house, and this happened, this COVID drama and this terrible government. And I realised that things were meant to be. Things were meant to happen this way for me to step up to the plate like I have. So anyway, I was a policeman for 14 years. I was a private investigator for 10. I've run a business, raised a family. I've been a farmer the whole time, contractor. I've done a few things. I've been in the front lines. I've been in the trenches. I've got my hands dirty, and I've seen the gritty side of life. And like to think that I understand how life works and how people are and human nature, that sort of thing. So what happened was I got into Parliament and I realised how fragile democracy is. Really fragile. Democracy relies on people playing by gentlemen's rules and no underarm bowling. And what I've discovered is that this current government, they're shockers. They are the worst government that we have ever had. I used to think they're incompetent, but I actually believe they're corrupt and evil. I really do. Yes. So what I want to do is, the party was formed on the back. That's just firearms guys downstairs. Firecrackers at my meetings, mate. Firecrackers at my meetings. We're rednecks here, man. We're rednecks up here. This is all going on camera too, so we got our security guards downstairs with their weaponry. So anyone that thinks they're going to heckle me tonight, they're going to end up down there. Hey, look, I want to show you a video it's about the convoy and the protest, and it's just a really powerful video. I watch it a lot, but it gets me really emotional. So what do you think about that?
Yes.
Pretty powerful images there, weren't there? Yeah. Just ironing out the faults in our technical department. Look, so that's where we came from, Democracy NZ, and I went down there. Show of hands, who was involved in the protest and one-way convoy? Wow, awesome. So there's quite a few meetings I go to like this where people say, I was in that video, did you see me? I was handing out this, so it's been really interesting. So, like I said, I have background in investigations and I spent a lot of time in the trenches doing that frontline stuff. And so I got a very well-developed sense of when I'm being bullshitted to, like a bullshit detector is very sensitive for me. And this government creates it and produces it on an industrial commercial scale. So I know this saying, so we know they lie and they know they lie. They know that we know that they know that we know, and yet they still continue to lie. It's amazing, isn't it? And some of the biggest lies told by this government, that they don't lie. Remember that? They don't lie. That was a lie. When she said that. Have you heard the word safe and effective? That's the biggest lie, you know. 80,000 people will die. That was a big lie. That was a model that was discredited within 2 weeks. Yet they didn't come out and say that. They just let us believe that. That the vaccine is 95% effective. That the vaccine will stop transmission. That vaccinations will not be mandatory. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. We will build 100,000 houses. And we will govern for all New Zealanders. They're all lies. So if you were going to divide and bankrupt a country, how would you do things differently than what this government have been doing? So I said to you that I felt that democracy is very fragile, but I do have a message of hope, and I do have a plan, and I do believe we can beat this. So just a little bit more about the government, favourite of mine. They've not started one major infrastructure project since they've been in. It's 5 years now, 4 years. $50 million on a bike ramp over Harbour Bridge, and that was just their feasibility study. $50 million. Someone's rorting somewhere for that. You know, $50 million is a lot of money. You know, it's half a hospital. And that was just on the feasibility study to work out whether a bike ramp was feasible to go across the Harbour Bridge. I mean, this is ridiculous money. $100 million on a ghost train between Waikato and Hamilton and Auckland. I mean, and the printed money going out of fashion, borrowing money, and so we're now in an inflationary. We're in a period of hard times, I believe. And they always say this is from Ukraine or overseas stuff, but it's when you're printing money like they have, $50-60 billion worth. Of course, inflation kicks in as night follows day. So when you look at the record of this government, it's the worst record. Whatever measurement you measure them by, it's the worst record of any government ever. Enough about them. So I'm a frequent critic of this government. So I drop truth bombs all the time. So I've got a bit of a target on my back. I've been banned, shadow banned on Facebook a bit. I've had venues cancelled under me. I've been trespassed in Parliament. Unbelievable. So I get this letter in the mail saying I've been trespassed off Parliament. I went to Parliament as an MP. I worked across that ground 1,000 times. I've been a policeman for 14 years with good conduct and I left on friendly terms and no enemies there. And I was down there protesting with everyone else. But I didn't confront anyone. I didn't stand on any front line like the brave women that I saw linking arms. I stayed right out of the media a bit, because I didn't want to get arrested. Because I know what the plan was. If I got arrested, they would impose bail conditions on me, they muzzle me. So I stayed out of the melee, but I also preached non-violence, passive protest, and that's my right. And if we can't protest on Parliament grounds in this country, we don't have a country. But anyway, they trespassed me for about 2 days. So I milked that one. I got some good mileage out of that one. And I think I should buy Trevor Mallard a box of beers for that. I got a lot of sympathy out of that for those 2 days that I was trespassed. Because I was going to drive down to Wellington and walk across the grounds and get challenged. I was going to do that. I didn't tell them I was going to do that, but I would have done it because it's just ridiculous. What country do we live in? Anyway, I was the spokesman for the Police and Defence Force anti-mandate challenge. And that was announced. We had a win, obviously. It's ancient history, but we had a win. And and we had a win because, we had a lot of good cops giving their evidence, like affidavits. We had 30 affidavits. We had a really strong case. We had some really good lawyers. But I really believe that the nurses and the doctors and the teachers, they should have had a win as well. It's ridiculous that they didn't. Yeah. So we won. The government appealed it. They just dropped the appeal 2 days ago because it was a ridiculous appeal. So the law stands now. Mandates are illegal, right? For police and defence force. But they should be. Logic dictates that it should be for teachers and nurses and everyone else affected by mandates. If they're illegal for everyone. Yeah. So that's one thing we've got to really fight. And that was a huge one. I think they announced that at the protest.
They did.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty good. So this government, they break the law. They act illegally or unlawfully, if you want to debate with the media about it. So vaccine passes are illegal. MIQ was illegal. Mandatory vaccinations are illegal. The first couple of weeks of the lockdowns, they were all illegal. There was no law to lock us down like they did. So they've acted illegally all the way through. They've lost multiple court cases, but they just changed the law. So anyway, media. So I want to tell you about media. Yeah. So read that heading. If you just read that without thinking about it, what does that tell you?
You're corrupt.
I'm corrupt, yeah. So I called the government corrupt. And then I did an interview with Tova O'Brien, and that's the title they put up. And the 6-minute interview, I told them that government's corrupt and they're acting illegally. And she argued that they don't act illegally, they were acting unlawfully. So I said, you're splitting hairs. And she said, well, you're a liar, you're telling lies and you're paranoid. And I said, no, they're legal, unlawful, whatever. They're acting that way. But this is misinformation. This is from the mainstream media. Like, they put that up. People read that and said, oh, the corrupt ex-cop Matt King. Well, I didn't say my name, but, clashes with Tova and unlawful versus illegal. That's misinformation if ever I saw it. Yeah. So this is another one. Matt King launches anti-mandate party. We're anti-mandate, but we're not an anti-mandate party. There's a lot more to us than that. When you click on that online, that video starts playing with all those flames and writing. So the insinuation is that I'm into that. I'm promoting it. And that's another one. That was on, stuff. Yeah, it was on stuff. So for us, having independent, impartial, and balanced media is essential for democracy, and we don't have it. Now that's not everyone. There might be media in this room. It's not everyone, but mainstream media as a whole are bought and paid for, and it's all coming from our taxpayers' money. So not only is there the journalism fund, which is 50 million or 100 million, that's been put out there to just taxpayers' money thrown at them. It's also all the advertising. There's hundreds of millions of dollars in COVID advertising at full rates. And so most media outlets, that's how they're surviving now, is off the COVID advertising. And you don't bite the hand that feeds. And so, of course, they never criticise the government or the Holy One. That's just the way it is. So we've got to stop that. And whenever you see a talking head standing up like Rod Jackson or, what's the other guy, Sean Hendry or Michael Baker or any of those guys, they should have to say who they are, where they got their information that they're just about to tell you, because it'll be from a government source, it'll be from a PR company and spin from the government source, and then how much money they're being paid. So what contracts they've got with the government. And if we knew that information before they said anything, we'd take it with a pinch of salt, what they had to say. So what we did was we challenged them. We challenged them to a debate, a live debate. I've sent emails off to most of the main talking heads, the puppets, and I've got some people like Guy Hatchard, and we're willing to go live with them, unedited debate with a neutral mediator, and let's just have a debate, which is what a democratic society do. Let's just you guys put your point across, let's just get to the bottom of it. Let's find the truth. Every one of them have declined us, so they slag us off on the mainstream media and the stories on TV, and yet they won't debate with us, and they've absolutely crucified myself and a few others in the media, but yet they won't front up. So that's a fact. And if I do get challenged by any of the mainstream media, I'll say, let's have our debate. Let's have it televised, unedited, if you want to. So anyway, what happened recently was, 4 or 5 months ago, was an OIA, Official Information Act request went in to the government about when they planned the vaccine pass system, when it was made, when it was constructed, and all the planning and behind it. And the government stalled that OIA for 4 months, basically. And then finally the Ombudsman made them release it. And it basically showed that Jacinda Ardern lied at the podium at 3. So that hard evidence that they had been working on this vaccine pass system months and months before they said they were. So that was the week that it came out was the week that Ashley Bloomfield said he was resigning, and his 2OC and the other ones all rats off the chip. They were all resigning, and I believe, and I'm only speculating here, is that she can't take the fall for this. They're going to have to take it. When eventually the media report it, it'll be that Ashley Bloomfield lied about it rather than Jacinda Ardern. So you can imagine if that happened under any other government, like John Key gets weeks and weeks of thing for taking on a ponytail. This is blatant lies about serious stuff, and the media, it's just crickets, So needless to say, I'm very, what do you call it? Very sceptical of the media. They're not all my enemy though. So I challenge the narrative, and I get lots of shots taken at me, and so I reckon I'm hovering over the target. I reckon I'm pretty spot on. And so a while ago, I started challenging the narrative. I started questioning it. So my investigative brain started thinking I don't like what I'm hearing and it doesn't seem to ring true, so I'm going to start asking questions. So I started interviewing doctors and nurses and paramedics and victims and funeral directors. I've got them all on video. Some of them off the record, some of them on the record. And I started asking, what's the story? What all the stuff that's been happening in the last 2 or 3 years, what's your thoughts on it? And when you've got seriously experienced doctors that have been here in the business for 20, 30 years, walking away from their careers and professions because they know it's bad and they don't want to borrow it, then you've got to take notice of that. And when you're talking to paramedics that are attending vaccine injuries daily, serious vaccine injuries, and then I'm talking to a guy, 60 years old. I used to think that was old, but now I'm 54, it's not that old. 60 is young. He's got no fat on him, he works 6 days a week, he's a solid guy, his employer loves him, works 6 days a week for like 30 years. He's working away from home up Kaitoa way, and he goes and gets his vaccine because he had to, it was required or something. That night, he had a really bad night, he got really sick. And the next morning, his boss looked at him and said, "You've got to get to hospital. You're looking bad." He went to hospital. They said, "Your heart, you've got heart arrhythmia. Your heartbeat's all out of whack." So they jump-started his heart, got it beating properly, and sent him home that day, which just seems a bit weird to me, but anyway. So he thought he'd dodged the bullet. So he'd only had one vaccine. He thought he'd dodged the bullet. He got home. The next day, he went out for a drive to go and get something in Russell, and he got home. His wife saw him pull in the driveway about 200 metres away, and then he didn't come up to the house, and she went down to find him curled up beside his car, and he collapsed, and he had a stroke. So he had a blood clot to the brain, and he can't work now. He's buggered. He couldn't talk. When I was there, his wife was crying, and he couldn't telling me the story, and he couldn't even talk. I saw him crying because he could see his wife getting upset, but he couldn't talk, and so he can't work. He can walk. He can just walk around a bit. He can shuffle a bit. But that's him. He's toast now. And it's from a stroke. So the hospital said a month of saying we don't know what it is, it's unknown, cause unknown, all that stuff. Finally, a specialist cardiologist or one of those guys has ruled it vaccine injury. So it's all written down. It's done and dusted. So at least he can get ACC and at least he can get some sort of action. So I'm talking to people all over the place that are affected. I know it's real. It's right in front of me. It's evidence that you could take to a high court and win a court case. First-hand witness evidence. So whatever the media say or whatever the government says, I know they're lying because I've got the good evidence of the people that are affected. I've seen his paperwork. I've interviewed the guy. I've spoken to the doctor. I've spoken to the nurse. I know all these things. I've got all this evidence. I know it's real. Okay, so that's why I'm taking things head on. Anyway. So I've shown the Tovis light, that's my favourite one. So I get called an anti-vaxxer, and I get called a conspiracy theorist, and I get called a nut job, and I get called all these things. So the media came after me, they really did. I was getting phone calls from Tova O'Brien, Jessica Mutch-McKay, Helen Castles, Q&A, all the big channels, all ringing me. And I thought, that's good, I'm going to get out there and spread the word. I got a message from the guy. He said to me, You won't know me, Matt, but I'm a guy that helped you out when you were an MP. I came into your office and gave you some support. And you treated me really well. You yarned to me and you treated me like a decent person. I thought, well, isn't that what everyone does? Apparently MPs don't do that. They're too busy spreading their feathers out in the sun thinking they're peacocks, but they're actually feather dusters. Anyway, this guy said to me, I just want to give you the heads up. They're coming after you. Media are coming after you. They're going to do a hit job on you. Just don't do any interviews. So from 2 years before, a chance meeting with a guy, treated him okay, he felt obliged to give me the heads up. He obviously got some information that he wanted to ring. So I just stayed low for 2 weeks. And they said they're going to get you on a panel, they're going to do sound bites, they're going to get you and they're going to crucify you. And and I was getting phone calls every day for 2 weeks. And I just see the number come up because I've got all their numbers. And I go, I'm not answering that. And I just kept under the radar for 2 weeks and dodged the bullet there. But no doubt, the momentum that's coming from Democracy NZ, and we're getting meetings all around the country, they will come after me again. So just know that if you see a really crappy story about me, it's not true. My wife will tell you I'm not that bad. I'm bad, but I'm not that bad. So how do we deal with this? Well, we limit the taxpayer funding of media. That's one thing. And whatever funding they get has to be regularly disclosed, so it's just transparent. So we know who's being paid what, so we can then take what they had to say with a pinch of salt. I've got one video I want to show you now. Hang on just one sec. So I've got two more things, and then I'm going to show you this really cool video that a cop sent me, and it's relative. It got sent to me in January. So one other thing is whistleblower legislation. So we bring in whistleblower legislation so that if you're in an industry or a profession and you see something really bad, then you can activate that whistleblower legislation and then you can disclose what you know and you're not going to get run out of town. Yeah. So that's something that I would really be keen on. You have to meet some certain criteria, so you have to have good evidence, you have to activate the legislation, and then you're protected, your career is protected. And I believe that if we have that, there'll be all kinds of people coming out of the woodwork and they'll have witnesses and evidence for Africa. So that's one thing. Also, we've got to protect our citizen journalism, our Chantal Bakers and our lives. We've got to protect them because they're the ones that are giving us the message that the mainstream media aren't giving us. So we've got to protect them. There's legislation going through the House at the moment about lives being illegal and a 14-year penalty. And it was around, I think it was created around the time of the Christchurch massacre, but it'll be used to stop citizen journalism, catching things like the riots. They'll be using that. So this is a real big encroachment on our rights. And stronger powers for the media watchdogs. So, the media play up or they do something really bad, there's stronger powers to get, go after them. So I've got a good video here. It's of a cop sent to me. It's about him being mandated out of the job.
Of a little voice saying, "Daddy, come out and play." wouldn't want it any other way. I know you're tired, I know you're hurting, I know you broke down to the bone. But your bills are paid and there's smiling faces waiting on you at home. It ain't always easy, it ain't ever like you planned all, but man, ain't it working, man? It's sweat, blood, and bruise, calloused hands, hard as can be. There's bread on the table, there's presents under the tree. I know you're tired, I know you're hurting, I know you broke down to the bone. But your bills are paid and there's smiling faces waiting on you at home. It ain't always easy, it ain't ever like you planned all, but man, ain't it working, man? It ain't always easy, it ain't never like you planned all, but man, ain't it working, man?
So it's not as relevant now because I think the mandates are gone for coppers now. But when he sent it to me, it was real. Hey, so what I wanted to do is tell you about at Democracy NZ what we're about. So when I was down in Parliament, I realised that if you have one vote in the majority, you can change whatever law the previous governments have done. So if you've got something enshrined, like the Electoral Act has conditions in it which said 75% of Parliament has to vote a certain way to change it, that's in our Electoral Act. But a one vote to reverse that law that says it's enshrined by 75%. So it's like nothing is sacred, nothing is protected. And what's happened in the past is our Bill of Rights has been sort of honoured by previous governments on both sides. With the odd exception, but mostly it's been honoured. And now it's just walked over all the time. So the Bill of Rights is like a piece of paper that's just, if the law's breached, the Bill of Rights is breached, it doesn't matter. And for me, at Democracy NZ, we believe our bottom line, and we'll go into the election with this, and we will tell everyone, all the voters and all their parties, is that if we get in to hold the balance of power in the next government, no legislation can go through the House that breaches the Bill of Rights. And if we do that, we'll have no vaccine passes, no mandates, no masks, all of that stuff, all that lockdown stuff, all illegal, because it breaches our Bill of Rights. And the short to medium term answer is just to have people in Parliament that have a conscience and have the guts to do that. That's all we need. Long term, we've got to come up with some sort of plan, some sort of, constitution of some sort, something that we can protect ourselves. But at this point in time, for the next 5 to 10 years, you just need people that care about the country and have a conscience and are willing to stick up for it. And that's us. So I believe that we've got, there's some, what we call virtual election results. So of all the minor parties out there, none of them are going to get 5% if you look at the history. The only time a minor party's got in is if they had an MP in the previous time, or they got in over the 5% with an electoral seat, right? So for us, I lost Northern seat by 163 votes, which is the smallest losing margin in the country. And 220 votes came out of Narfa prison, and none of those buggers voted for me. So, but I'm not bitter. Government changed the law during those 3 years so that they could vote. But anyway, I've got a fighting chance of winning Northland, because I can argue this. I can say, right, I lost by a small margin, I'm a hard-working guy, I'm leading a party now, I won't be a backbench MP, an unknown national MP, I'll be a party leader, and I'll be standing up for our rights. And I'll be going around the country and around Northland having meetings like this from now until the election. So I've got plenty of runway. I believe that I can absolutely sell the idea that National Democracy NZ is in with a chance more than any other minor party. So I would say to people, if you want your rights back, if you want a Bill of Rights, and you want a party that will go into coalition with whoever makes up the next government and has these bottom lines that are well advertised, well in advance, we're that party. Okay? Between now and then, I'm talking to some of the other minor parties and having lunch and dinner with a couple of them. I also happen to know that some of the minor parties have got major skeletons that they'll have their knees taken out from under them before the next election. As soon as they get some momentum, the media know about it, they're going to come after them. I don't want a bar of being with those people because I don't want to sink in their boat. So I think what will happen is between now and the next election, there will be options on the table. There will be maybe minor parties join up. Some minor parties will fall over. So there will be options on the table. But I can guarantee one thing, that Democracy NZ will be doing our best and going hard between now and the next election to show that we are a viable option. So it's us. So the other thing is, like, obviously I've been an MP, so a lot of the minor parties don't have any political experience. I've been an MP. I've got the connections and I've got the relationships with people that are in there now. So they know me. I'm a I guess what do you call a known quantity, you know. And I won't play red phone, blue phone, hold them to ransom rubbish during negotiation. I'll just say these are our bottom lines, and they've been publicly known, and we won't budge from them. And it's all around human rights. It's all around our basic human rights. There's a couple of other things I want to tell you about that we stand for at Democracy NZ. We want to take the race out of the equation. So policies and legislation that have race-based stuff, I don't want to bar of, okay? It's about need. So that any legislation that goes through the House, you look at the need, not what colour their skin is, what race they are, when their ancestors came to this country, any of that, it's irrelevant. It's just about the need. That's one thing. The second thing is private property rights. We're having our private property rights eroded, special significant natural areas, and half my farm's a significant natural area. I'm not going to let those government agents come onto my place and tell me what to do with my farm. I will fight to the end. And I say private property rights are what makes business and commerce work. We've got to do that. We've got to protect it. So those are our core values. So basic human rights, take race out of the equation. So co-governance stuff gone. Her puapua gone. This Three Waters asset theft gone. All that. All this nepotism that you see going on now, someone's husband and someone else's sister and all that, getting these plum jobs with these big contracts and have no skills. Gone. We don't want to bar it. We have a media that's actually doing their job, providing balanced reporting. These things get exposed. And they get found out and they get stopped. So what I'm talking about for us is, if we get in and we hold the balance of power, and if I win my seat in Northland, based on the party vote, because I believe there's 30% of vote out there looking for a home, politically homeless. I'm talking to people that have been baked on Labour people and baked on Blue that are not going to vote for that party ever again. I talk to them every day. I'm one of them. I left the National Party because I couldn't believe that they didn't stick up for our basic human rights. I got told that if I keep my head down and my mouth shut, I'll be an MP again next term. I got told that. Keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, the red tide's going out, the blue tide's coming in, you'll be an MP. But I had this thing the old man used to say to me, is you've got to be happy with who's looking back at you when you look in the mirror. So I said, right, I'm not having a bar of this, I'm going to break ranks. So they've circled the wagons on me. I don't care. I'm quite happy. Things are meant to be, and I'm on the Democracy NZ wagon. I've been massively encouraged by who's out there that's been coming on board. The people, the quality, the calibre of the people that have been stepping up and said, I want to be a candidate, I want to run with you. The supporters, the volunteers, the people that have been coming to the meetings. It's been fantastic. It really has. Blew me away. I was in Rangiora, and there was a hall a little bit smaller than this, a little bit smaller, and then they were out the door and the floor and down the stairs, and it was just fantastic. And there were people sitting down on the floors, and it was just fantastic. And another venue I was at where we had to change to an auditorium because we booked a hall for 120 people and 240 turned up. So we had to go to an auditorium. So those sorts of things were happening. And so for me, if we get in, with this bottom line, we've got the Bill of Rights. We've got to have a Royal Commission of Inquiry with right parameters and the ability to recommend prosecution. I believe that as a country we can't heal until we do that, till we have justice. It's going to take a while, and we can't get justice under this current government. So it's going to have to be a new government, a Royal Commission of Inquiry, well-funded, right parameters, ability to recommend prosecution, because if someone stands up on the dais of deceit, not the podium of truth, the dais of deceit, and says things that are lies, and they know they're lies and we can prove it, and people die or get injured because of it, they have to face the music, they have to face justice. Because we're not going to heal as a country unless we have that. So that'll be a big one. So we're going to introduce binding referendum. That's one of the things. Look at enshrining a constitution. So I'll just touch on the COVID stuff that everyone knows about. So a year and a half ago, what I did was I started asking questions, and I interviewed some pretty clever people, specialists in their own right. And I got on Facebook, and there was 70,000 views. And the stuff that he said was just basic truths, And next minute the media came after us and hammered us. And so I knew that I was hovering over the target over that. But what's come out since, which is really only the last couple of months, I think, is that Pfizer data dropped up, where they fought for 50 years. They didn't want to release this information for 50 years. They lost in court. They've had to release it. They're releasing some of it every month. They're releasing some. If you take the Pfizer company's own data, it's horrifying. The evidence is right there. No one can deny it. Pages and pages of serious injuries and deaths. Jacinda Ardern said that it is safe for pregnant women to take. That is a lie. You know why? Pfizer only tested it on pregnant mice. That's in the papers. It's right there and then. She cannot stand up there and say it is safe for women to take. Pregnant women and breastfeeding women are the most vulnerable we've got. They're the last people we experiment on. And this whole thing has been a massive experiment, and it's been a really bad one. So I believe, and I'm only speculating here, that in this year and maybe next, there's going to be some big stuff happening overseas with some big people up high getting taken down. There's going to be court cases, there's going to be some revelations, there's going to be some really big stuff happening over the next year or two, mostly overseas, but whatever happens overseas comes back, and they're going to face the music here. I want it so that if you're a politician, or you're a head of a department, or you hold a position of authority, and you stand up and you lie, and people get injured or killed, you are going to jail. That's what I want. But apparently I'm paranoid and a liar and spreading misinformation. Yeah. So we had the Pfizer they had a double-blind, proper scientific testing. What do they call it? Trials. Yeah, thanks. And then 2 months after it, they gave all the placebo group the vaccine, so it just null and voided the whole thing. And they had very few, no pregnant women, no breastfeeding women, very few immunocompromised people in there, and very few old people. So they mostly had young, fit people in their trials. So it was totally skewed. These guys are going to face the music for this. They are. They've been fined billions of dollars, and now we've got myocarditis, right? So a guy I know, he's been in the industry in the profession for years, and he said myocarditis is quite rare. It's usually caused by a virus. It's very rare. So he's maybe had a handful of cases in his whole career, 30 years worth, and he's got dozens of cases now. And he said, Matt, the scary thing about it is, because it's mostly in young men, and young people, it's like scar tissue. It's scar tissue on the heart. It's like scar tissue on the brain. It's permanent, right? And he said the average life expectancy of someone that gets a decent dose of myocarditis is 5 years. And he said that's damn scary because I've got dozens of cases. So we've got ticking time bomb happening here. We've got a ticking time bomb. It's bloody scary. So I want to be in a country where this can never happen again. So where you cannot be told you have to choose between your career and your livelihood and your house and your health. If you've got a blood clot condition and you want an exemption, you get an exemption. You have a choice. You don't have to take it if you don't want to. And I don't object to anyone. If it helps them sleep at night, go do it. But I just believe that I don't want to live in a country where I have to make that choice. I don't want to live in a country where I'm overseas and I'm stranded overseas and I can't come back to my own country. I want a country where a government cannot stop me coming back to my own bloody country. You know? So these are all basic things. These are all, this is not rocket science. This is just our basic human rights. So, so where there's risk, there must be choice. That's a fact. The Bill of Rights got some lines in it that we can live by. The Bill of Rights. The right not to be deprived of life or subjected to cruel treatment. The right not to be subjected to medical or scientific experimentation. The right to refuse to undergo medical treatment. The freedom of thought, conscience, religion and belief. The freedom of peaceful assembly, association and movement. These are basic core rights that we at Democracy NZ, right to justice, liberty and freedom from discrimination. So what we're going to do, I'll go to Q&A shortly, but I just wanted to tell you, at Democracy NZ, we believe in, if you mess up, you fess up and you put it right. And this government could have done that a long time ago. They realised that they've gone down the wrong track, fess up and put it right. But they've just doubled down and gone hard, and as a result of that, thousands of people have died and thousands of people have been injured. And that's a fact. So one day we're going to look back on this time and say, wow, that was a period of our history where it was insanity. It wasn't the elephant in the room, it was the naked emperor riding the elephant. It's that bad. So what I just want to say is, so one of the things you get told by the mainstream parties is that don't waste your vote on the minor parties. And to a degree that's right. Except if you've got a party that's got a chance of winning a seat. And if enough of the freedom vote, if you were a person that has made a choice to get the vaccine for anything other than health, so you did it just to keep your job, or you feel that your rights have been eroded in any way, shape or form during this time this government is in, if you give Democracy NZ your vote, I believe we could get 10, 15, 20%. Absolutely can. And I can say to people, look, I've got a chance, I've got a reasonable chance of winning North, I'm going to pull out all the stops and go hard. The other thing about electorates is this, normally you have a Labour national two-horse race. In Northland, we've got an ACT candidate, we're going to have a New Zealand First candidate, we're going to have a Labour candidate, they're toast. I think Labour are toast. That's what I believe. I don't meet anyone that, put it this way, there's a lot of good Labour people out there, right, that are never going to vote for Labour again. And there's quite a few national voters that are not going to vote for National again. But they might give us their vote. Because they know that, hey, he's been in there, he's got a bit of experience, he's got the relationship, and he's got a chance of winning. So that's where I picture that. There is an opportunity. We also got a no-name, brand new national candidate, it's not even named yet, so I don't know who they are, and then I got me. So the vote's going to be split. So there's a very real chance that I could win the Northland seat. And if Northlanders give me that chance, everything's going to change. And like I said, my life was really good. I've got a beautiful wife. I get Eiffel steak every night if I want, drink wine, sit on the deck, look at my beautiful farm and enjoy my kids and my family. They're all around us. I don't need this. And being an MP is not glamour at all. It's feather duster stuff. You think you're a peacock, you're a feather duster. You know what I mean? But I just feel that if my grandkids are going to look back and they're not born yet, what did Granddad do to fight this fight? You know? And I want to be the guy that said, well, I fought it. So I'll wrap it up. I'll go to Q&A because Q&A is always good. Lots of questions. So what can you do to help us, right? A lot of beautiful people already signed the membership form out the back, right? So we've got to register 550 people to the Electoral Commission to form the party. We've got 4,000 people that sent their emails into me within a month. National Party's got 15 to 20,000 members and they've been going for 86 years. We've got 4,000. They haven't all paid their money, so they're not technically members, but they've given us their phone numbers and email address. So we've got a lot of people out there. And what we're doing is we're going around getting members signed up, because you need the piece of paper, they need to pay the $20, you need your signature, they've got to sign a form, it's got to be done properly. So we're doing that. But what I'd ask you to do is, if you want to become a volunteer for Democracy NZ, then give us your name when you leave, and we'll have little clusters of supporters everywhere. We've got a really good crew in Christchurch, some amazing women down there that came along and supported me in all my meetings, and a couple of men as well. And we've got a really good crew down there. It's woman power, mate. It's woman power. Any man that thinks he's in charge is kidding himself. Follow us on Facebook, Matt King Northland, or our Democracy page. Share our posts and comment on it. Nice comments, please. Because every time you like it or you share it, it sort of helps the boosting around. Because I am being shadowed down a bit. You know, it's just happening. It's just fact of life. And if you can afford to, if you win Powerball, donations are really appreciated, because every dollar we get as a donation, that helps us. Like I'm going to Napier and Gisborne next week. I've been in the South Island, and everything is either out of our pockets or donations. That's what we rely on. I'm incredibly encouraged by the feedback I'm getting from everyone and the amazing sort of support that we're getting from a cross-section of society. And when I was down at Wellington at the protest, it was mind-blowing, that feeling down there, that camaraderie, that spirit, that passion. And I watched the stuff happening on the news, and the lies that were told on the news. And I was thinking, I was just there that day, that's a lie. That's a whole lot of lies. That river of filth comment, that really got me. Take him round the back. Anyway, I'll tell you, he's just a liar. He's just a liar. Anyway, I got on the mainstream media and I tried to portray what really was happening. I said, these are regular people. These are all the trades and all the professions and all the beautiful people, business owners, midwives, off-duty cops. You know, one off-duty cop lives in Whangarei. He drove down there on his days off, and he worked. He worked in the food preparation area for 14 hours. And he had a couple of hours kip in his car, and then he drove all the way back again. Didn't tell anyone who he was. Didn't tell him he was a cop. Just came down there, did his bit, and then left again. He's left now because he got fed up with the cops. It's quite sad actually, because he's a good cop. But anyway, he just felt so strongly about it, and that was repeated over and over again. So really good people. So that convoy and that protest, that was big for me. That told me that there's a lot of good people out there that realise what's going on, critical thinking. So what I ask you to do is this. Most of you in this room are awake and aware of what's going on. So what I ask you to do is, there's a lot of people that still haven't realised what the game is. Nudge them awake. Try not to overload them with information or bully them or, whatever. Just let them get them to ask questions about what's going on and what you're seeing around you and what's in front of you. It's happening right in front of you. So just awaken the sheep, and then we get to the next election and we've got enough people awake and the realisation sinks in what's been happening over this last couple of years. We'll have a rampaging win at this election and we'll get this country back on track. Yes. Thank you. So we go to Q&A now. I've got a little mic here. And you only get 1 minute, no speeches. Anyone got a question? Be gentle with me, please. Be gentle.
Just a quick one. What was the song that you played with the first video?
I've got the name of it on Spotify. It's a weird name. I can give it to you after. It's awesome. If you go to Liberty Bites is the Facebook group, and she's got about 4 videos on there. 2 of them have got that soundtrack. Jessica Jones is the lady, she's from Blenheim, and she's got lots and lots of pictures of people holding up signs and regular people. Liberty Bikes. Go onto that Facebook page, it's really good. Yeah, hang on. There's no such thing as dumb question, just ask me anything. Just nothing personal.
Can I ask, this may be slightly off topic, I'm not sure, but with the vaccine injury side of things, with your investigative powers that have been on full alert, is there any truth to the rumour that people who've had young people die after the vaccination have actually been paid off by the government and made to sign confidentiality clauses?
Okay, I've heard that. I've actually heard that as well. And I have, I tried to trace, because you always talk to someone and they said, oh, I know someone and I know someone, and it's like 6 people removed and you wonder whether it's actually ever true. I went through 6 different sources, like bang, 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 to find a woman who's a family friend of the family that got paid out and got signed a non-disclosure agreement. I have then gone to a lawyer, a high-powered lawyer that's willing to work for free and has been to the appeals court twice, so he's no mug, who is willing to provide them legal advice and willing to take it to court to challenge the legality of the non-disclosure because their child died, and the Ministry of Health turned up 3 days later and gave them a lump sum of money and made them sign a form. We believe the law says that that's under duress and distress, and so the contract is invalid. Also, I've got people that are willing to stump up the money that if they lose the court case, in the unusual event that they lose the court case, they would cover the difference. So if it's 100 grand, 200 grand, whatever it is, they were willing to stump up the money. But these people are really scared. They've moved out of their home and moved away, and they've gone to ground, they've gone off social media. So that was something I was hoping to know by now, because I'll be shouting it from the rooftops. But it's it's sort of what I'm working towards it, but it's just one of those I might not get there ones. But so I have no solid proof. I just have eyewitnesses that are telling me it's true. You know. So and I believe it's true. I've heard it's happened. There's more than a few. Okay. So my belief is that this will come out in the wash eventually. Someone will talk. We will find out about it. And it's not I said mess up, fess up, and put it right. It's the cover up that takes people down. The messed up and then the covered up. So that's what I said when I told you I think this government are evil. They are evil. What they're doing to our country and what they're doing to our people is evil. It's not incompetent. I thought it was incompetence. I used to think it was incompetence. I now believe they're corrupt and it's evil. Yeah, that's just my personal belief. Yeah. There's a microphone. Hang on, just see it. Good looking fella in the sheepskin collar, stylish man. Yeah, should be all right.
What are we going to do about these unelected bodies like the World Economic Forum infiltrating our government and local councils?
Yes. Okay, so good question. I get asked that every time. So, like I said, an incoming government can reverse whatever any previous governments have done. So I think there's awareness now that there's some sort of strings being pulled from overseas, and we're being influenced by overseas organisations that are unelected. So us at Democracy NZ, we'll be looking at every agreement or contract or those sorts of things that we've signed, and just purely looking at it, what's best for New Zealand. And there's some things that we've signed where it could be not dangerous, but could be detrimental to us if we pull out of. So it's all about working out what we can get out of. And I mean, we're a sovereign country, and we should be making our own decisions, and we should be running our own country. And as long as we keep on side with our trading partners, because we've got to pay our bills, I just believe that we shouldn't be dictated to by anyone else. And every meeting I go to, that's a real big concern. The WHO, the WEF, all sorts of organisations that somehow they've got control over us, and they're going to ruin our lives. And I just think we're a sovereign country, we govern ourselves. So come the next election, if I win my seat in Northland, so it's down to you guys, and I bring 4 or 5 or 6 MPs in with me, because it depends on how much party vote. If we get 4%, I bring in about 5 MPs, plus me, 6. That's the balance of power. Whoever's in government will be coming and picking up the phone and saying, Matt, let's talk. Our bottom lines are already out there publicly known. So we can form a government, and then we can say, if you breach those bottom lines, and they're very reasonable, I'm not going to go for $3 billion of provincial growth fund money, or I'm not going to do all this rubbish that other coalition partners have done. I'd say if you stick to these bottom lines if you break them, get ready for another election, because we're withdrawing our support. I believe, being very pragmatic and practical and reasonable, that we can absolutely provide a stable government for the next term. We'll be part of it. Yes.
Can I ask you, very interesting that you were a policeman and you've got a son, you say, as a policeman.
Yep.
Can you explain why there were so many policemen in Wellington at that
Yep. So the
rally?
question.
What is wrong with our police force? Because we've lost all confidence in them at all. Even the guys here, we have feel no respect for them at all.
Yep.
Because of what happened.
Okay, so the question was about the police force and loss of confidence in them. And so my son's a policeman. He's been out 2 years. He's 21 years old. And I was a cop for 14. My granddad was a cop for 30 years. So it's blues in our blood. And I was hugely disappointed with what I saw down at Wellington. I could not believe what I was seeing. And I believe that there was political interference, because I don't believe that a strategically experienced commander, would have sent anyone in on that day 3. I don't think they would have done that. Peaceful protesters, not breaching any barriers and not trying to take Parliament at all, were just dancing and singing outside and across the front of Parliament, not around the back. Around the back was open. You could come and go, and MPs could walk in and out, food could come in and out, all the supplies. We were just out the front behind barriers that you could leap over. So we were about as passive and peaceful and organised as the protest I've ever been in. We even had our own first aid and clothing tent and food tent and toilet. The toilets and showers were outstanding. It was amazing. So in terms of policing, having been a policeman, a lot of coppers just accept what they get told. They get told that the hierarchy tell them that these guys are filthy protesters and they want to come down and mix it up. There's always a bunch of cops, and like even in a rugby team, there's always 1 or 2 guys that want to scrap. In a police force, there's guys that want to get down the rough and tumble. I think a vast majority of those cops, when they got down there and realised what they were up against, wouldn't have wanted to be there. But they're still going to follow what they're told. They're going to still do what they're told. So I saw people within that, policemen and women within that crew, that were loving the action of being the confrontation, and you could see it in their eyes and all that. But I know some cops that were down there and they did not want to be there. My son, I said, do not go down there, because you had to volunteer. I said, I don't want to hear you volunteer. He didn't want to go down there because he's into catching real crooks. He chases gang members up here and kicks doors, and he's one of the armed defenders squad, so he's a busy guy. And he didn't want to bar it. He didn't want to bar all this COVID stuff. He didn't want to go down there. And to the police credit, his supervisor said, if you get pressure on you to go down there, come and tell me and I'll make sure you don't have to go. Probably because, I'm his old man. But look, I went right off the general cops. Most cops are really good. They've got a good heart, and they're just doing the police to do the right thing. So yeah, there was some nasty stuff that happened, but just remember that's just a few people. It's not cops in general. I know it doesn't feel that way, but I've got to defend them because I know a lot of them and I know they're good people. And they're the same people that if you call 111 and you're in the crap, they're going to come and help you. They'll pull you out from under the car. They're going to help you. Women are getting beaten up by their terrible husbands. They're going to come and help you. So I don't want to. They lost a lot during that protest, and it's going to take them decades to get that back. Absolutely. Yeah. Good question. Yes.
How will you ensure that the elections are not rigged?
Good question. Look, I just have to believe that they're not rigged. Because if they were rigged, we're in a lot of trouble. And so I'll tell you one thing. So if anyone should feel that the election was rigged, I should, because in Northern seat, the Labour candidate has never got more than between 7,000 and 9,000 votes in the history of this electorate. So it's between 7,000 and 9,000 votes. And the National candidate's always got in the teens somewhere, And then there was and this time round, the Labour candidate got 17,000 votes. So nearly double. I don't know where they came from, you know. I was one of 2 national candidate MPs that actually got more votes than 2017. It was 54 of us and national candidates that went to the election, and all our rock stars and our senior guys lost thousands of votes. They all lost thousands of votes. Some of them still MPs because they had a massive buffer. I was one of 2 MPs that got more votes than last time and still lost. I got 1,500 more votes, so I swam against the tide. That's another reason why I think I can do it. I swam against the tide. I won my seat in 2017 because I was brand national. I lost my seat in 2020 because it's brand national. So all our party vote was decimated, right? So I've left them now, and my advisors tell me don't talk about national because we've left them. We've well and truly left them. But what I believe is that we're standing on principle, and I think that our principles are right. And I do believe this election will be like no other. I believe that there will be a lot of politically homeless people. I think a lot of people are going to come out and vote. I've never seen a communities around the country so motivated to get our country back on track. I used to go to National Party events, and it was basically the retirement brigade turned up, you know. Lovely people. But I can see lots and lots of young people here. I can see lots and lots of young people in the room. So for me, it's really encouraging because, you know, we've got a job to do, and we've got some good people that are going to back us. So thank you.
Yeah, sorry, this one won't be quite as frivolous. When I was down in Wellington, I noticed that there was foreign cops who were part of the police presence. Some of them were speaking in what me and several others have assumed was Ukrainian, as well as Melbourne police who were invited over to help with these March 2nd things. What's your stance on that?
Okay, so I don't know anything about that. I just know that cops were called up from all over the country. So there were at least a dozen cops that came down from Whangarei and Points North. So everywhere in the country, the calls put out to head to Wellington. So they were bribed with a, you know, stay in a 5-star and we'll lay on all the meals and they get a little bit of extra allowance. But I think that just some of them just went away for just for the fun of it. And that's what they did. They just went down there. They were called up to do it, and they left their own districts really understaffed, big time. And I mean, I knew about that. I knew that the cops were going to go in that day. They were, because I got messages from, believe it or not, the wives of cops that were training at Porirua Police College in riot gear. I got messages to say they're going in tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. And this came from a wife of a cop, and the wife said, "My husband told me to tell you." So I got the heads up. So I did a Facebook Live, and I did it the night before, and I just said, "Look, we've heard they're going in. You can watch it on my Facebook. We hope they don't go in. It's going to be a disaster for everyone. They're just going to roll in over top of everyone. And it's going to be ugly. We hope they don't do it." But the reason I did that Facebook Live is, and I rang down to the protest and told all the people that I knew, I just wanted anyone that, women and children and anyone frail to get out of there, because it's going to get ugly. And that was my thinking. And some of them did, a whole lot of them did. They packed up and left. They'd been active for the whole time, the whole 3 weeks, and they got out of Dodge, and I'm really happy for that. But I mean, that was, if you saw the footage, and everyone did, it was probably one of the nastiest times in our history. I would say worse than the Springbok tour. Yeah.
I was there the last 3 days.
Yeah, were you? I was blown away by the wahine down there that were holding arms and linking arms and on the front line and not fighting hard, just standing their ground. I was blown away by that, and I saw some horrific injuries, and I saw some sights I hope I never have to see again, and broken sternums and injuries and broken hips, and the guy that got knocked out, the old guy that got knocked out, and that was just so sad. And I don't never want to see that again. So, yeah. You got a mic? Yep. Yeah, go.
I don't know if you can hear it.
Yep.
Given your investigation stance of that you used to be with the police, right?
Yep.
And you're a current standing MP,
Yep.
yeah?
Was?
Was?
No, 2017 to 20 was when I was never an MP during this whole time.
What's your knowledge on Crown law and how it actually is null and void? And that the whole time that you're standing in Parliament, that you have to sign the same agreement that every other MP has to sign that states that you have to stick to their terms and conditions, which means everything that you're saying and promising us now can't actually happen because you have to sign a little death certificate as such to state that you can't actually say what you'll do, what you're stating.
Okay, I never signed anything when I was down there. The only thing I signed is allowance forms and my salary thing and my rental accommodation, rental agreement. I never signed anything. So, but I'll tell you one thing about why I don't think I was so disappointed that no one came out when the protest happened. So disappointed. I resigned the day before. It had been the third day of the protest when all those people got arrested for doing nothing but peacefully protesting. I came down the next day, and I resigned the night before, and I came down there, and I just was so disappointed that my old party and the opposition didn't have the decency to come out there and talk to everyone. And if they had done that, there's quite a likelihood that if it had been given a fair hearing, that all of this could have been avoided. And so I made that call. It was a big call. I walked away from a pretty much guaranteed job, and I just said, well, I just got to do it. I've got to do it because I want to be on the right side of history. And I think all the people in this room are on the right side of history too. When history judges us, they'll remember who did what, and they'll remember that there was some bad stuff happening. And yeah, I mean, I've shed a few tears. I mean, I imagine a lot of people in this room have over the things that you've seen and witnessed and experienced. And I cannot believe that the decisions that have been made by a whole lot of people in this country to try and, life and death decisions. We've got a lovely lady living in a horse truck on our farm because she sold her house because she lost her job. She's a teacher, and she's making the best of what she can with what she's got, but it's just really sad. And so I want a government. I want a small government because governments are crap at doing things. So I want small government. I want them to stay out of our lives. Let everyone get on with it. Let the decisions be made out in the field, the front line. That's where decentralised control. I know there's been a massive increase in bureaucrats under the current government, and so there's a few things. I mean, people say, "Oh, we're an anti-mandate party." Yep, at the moment, mandates are a big deal. There's a whole lot of other things. We've got a massive economic challenge coming, and we've got to open our doors, and we've got to start earning. We've got to get cranking again. We've got to open, we've got to get our foreign students in. We've got to start paying our bills. Like I said, I think the government. About 2017, when the Labor government came in, it was equivalent to the parents going away for the weekend and the kids are home alone. They had a massive party, they trashed the house, and they upset all the neighbours. It's time for the parents to come back, fix the damage, make up with the neighbours, and start paying the mortgage.
Hi Matt. My question, try to be direct and as simple as I can be. Your party, are you going to push our health system that's in a state? I speak to a lot of people. Actually, I should be up there doing your job. But I speak to a lot of people who have suffered illnesses with a 10-minute window at the doctors and haven't had their actual illness addressed because all they've got is 10 minutes. And is there going to be some is democracy NZ? You might very well one day that would be your goal, wouldn't it? To be the government. That to fix up the DHB and all our hospitals. And so have I made myself clear?
Yeah, you have.
Okay.
So obviously, in the middle of a pandemic, you don't restructure your health system. I mean, it's just nuts. It's just crazy. Yeah. So, and the one thing about the health system is that it's a never-ending bucket that you pour money into. But I do believe that, obviously you've got to prioritise health and education, and this government at this point in time are crap at everything they do. So, and what I've been really disturbed by is the health authorities, the governing bodies that govern it, like the doctors and all that. I mean, the appalling decisions they've made about doctors. I mean, there's a doctor in this Dargaville here that's stood up and stood his ground about the vaccine, and he realises it's dangerous and he won't be a part of it, and he's being run out of town, and it's happening all over the country. So the health situation is one of the things that I talk to a lot of doctors, and the health system's focused around pharmaceuticals and secondary treatment in hospitals. But if you pour the money, invest into the primary health care, the preventative stuff, the long-term benefits flow on, you have less people in hospital and less serious conditions. So that would be a focus for us, primary health care, definitely. Okay. And then this man here. After you, yep, fire away, yep.
Sorry, infrastructure.
Bring it up to your mouth. Bring it up to
your mouth. Infrastructure, fuel supply, security. I'm concerned about that. Marsden Point closing down, and we're now reliant on a boat to bring in what potentially could be terrible fuel that will wreck all our cars.
Yep. Yep.
Plus water supply for irrigation.
Yep.
A hole at Red Hill isn't going to do much when there's a huge resource at Tumoe, valleys and 2.4 metres of rain a year. Why are we not tapping into that?
Okay, so just to answer the question about the refinery, I think it's a strategic asset, and I think that it's been obviously in predominantly foreign ownership, and they've run it down over the years. I don't know the full details, but I think that it's crazy for us to let that happen, because in the foreseeable future we're going to need oil and gas. And so when I got into Parliament and I saw the decision to stop the oil and gas exploration, the ban that happened, without consultation with the industry and without a mandate from the people, we were horrified by it. And then I found out, because we had a lot of oil and gas specialists come to town and tell us what's going on. And they predicted that nothing will happen straight away, but what will happen is the industry's invested, they plan out 20, 30, 40 years out, and they spend millions of dollars, and it's, there's long-term planning going in. Those people will now see that we are a third world puppet country, like in one of those South African dictatorships, that the rule of law doesn't work and normal good governance doesn't happen, and they will pull the pin on us and leave, and that's exactly what's happened. So for the foreseeable future, we need oil and gas. I mean, we're in the top 5 countries in the world for renewable energy. We're 85%, 90%. We need gas for during our peak periods, because we have to produce power. We can't store it, so we've got to produce it. So they used to turn the gas turbines on. Geothermal goes 100% all the time. The dams open and shut. When the water's low, they crank up the gas. Okay, 1 day in 7 is usually gas, right? And it's cheap, and it's relatively clean burning compared with coal. And when they did the oil and gas ban, all the companies that use gas, Ford bought everything, and the exploration and the drilling and all that slows down, and eventually our gas demand is going to exceed our supply, and then we're in trouble. So when they did that, it was like economic sabotage, and it was just virtue signaling. And I saw that happening, and I thought, wow, this is crazy. And now I'm seeing what's happening with Marsden Point, and I'm going, this is unbelievable. In terms of water, there's been a couple of we supported legislation in the House that fast-tracked water projects. So if you wanted to do, you never build the Clyde Dam in the current environment. RMA would not let you do it. You just couldn't do it. These big projects that they've done that we've relied on for decades, they wouldn't do it now because it would be too hard. Well, there's been some irrigation projects around the north, and I hate to give New Zealand first credit for this, but they funded it, but through the Provincial Growth Fund, but we supported legislation which fast-tracked it. So that's been transformational. If you look at Kerikeri, the only reason Kerikeri is booming as a horticultural centre is because of the irrigation system that was built decades ago. There's one out here that's build out towards Podu on the right hand side out that way. Is it that way?
Red Hill.
Oh, sorry. That way. Over there, sorry. No. Yeah, it is. It's over there, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Out there, that's going to be massive. I mean, I was there watching them build it, and it was amazing. And we supported fast track legislation for that. So I believe, and there's one going in Kaikoui as well, and there's one in Kaitaia. That's going to be transformational long term for our little rural areas like that. It's going to be the horticulture's going to take off. So, hey, look, for me, I'm all about building infrastructure, and I'm all about getting rid of government. If we could get rid of government, it'd be a beautiful place. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Thanks, man. I feel almost obliged to give you my vote because you helped me out with a shingle on the way here. But,
I saw him going up the road, he was struggling to get through.
But anyway, my question was sort of around the wider policies of the Democracy Party. I know you're obviously standing for democracy, for unity, for equality, and I've heard a lot of questions just recently that are touching on sort of my guidelines of, you mentioned a wee bit about race, you mentioned a wee bit about SNAs, about water, people bringing up health. Can we get on your website and see a wider list of when you put in concrete your policies so we can make a concrete decision on who we want to vote for? I mean, I'm a skeptic when it comes to little parties, but I did vote for my mate Leighton last election, and he, of course, got nowhere. And you sort of think, well, Labour and National are the big guns. Why vote for a little party? It's going to be a waste of vote. And I totally get it. If you're getting a groundswell all through New Zealand, and I'm from down Christchurch as well. I'm glad to see that you had a good response from Rangura. But you know,
we want policy. Okay.
Yeah, the wider policy.
Yep, I get you. Okay, so we announced about two months ago.
Yeah.
So we're not even the registered party yet. So we announced our name, we announced what our mission was. What I can tell you this is that we have and are working on policies now, but we will not show our hand because the election is late next year. So I am building up a team of people. Liken it to this. We're at base camp at Everest, and I'm assembling the Sherpas, equipment, and the climbers, and I'm taking on the mountain. I am not going to show my hand, because all that'll happen is people, if I front the people that are fronted to me now and said, this is our candidate for whatever, Rangiora, Christchurch, whatever, they will, the media will come after them, they'll get crucified. Any policy we produce, other parties will repackage it, rename it, and call it their own if it's good. Yes. So what I'm going to do is tell you this: I play strategically, and we will put out our people and our policies and our plan when the time is right. Yes. So when you walk into the ballot box, you will know exactly what we stand for at Democracy NZ. Hopefully you're sick to death of me, but you'll give me the tick. By the way, Leighton's a good man. I met him for dinner and lunch, and talking to the man. I'm talking to a few people that are in the smaller minor parties. I'd like them all to jump on board with me, and because I think we've got the best name. Hey, I'll wrap it up anyway. Hey, thanks everyone. I really appreciate it. If you've got a question, come and see me. But I really appreciate you turning out here on a Thursday night. It's fantastic. This is massive for Dargaville. Awesome.